I mean, my experience with the boxer breed is, man, those dogs, they're awesome.
Yeah, boxers are the shit. All dogs rule, but yeah, I've had a lot of breeds growing up, and really a lot of different breeds of dogs. And there's just something about boxer, man. It's my last one was a boxer, and I had him for 12 years, and it's just people click with different breeds in a different way. I mean, I've had pits, we had German Shepherds, Australian Shepherds, Labradors, little dogs, big dogs. We had them all. Irish setter, I think I said. But with the boxer, it was just the most like my personality, I think.
Right.
Kind of ridiculous.
Outgoing.
Yeah, outgoing and like intentionally dumb sometimes. So like, that's always good, you know, like
that can keep you from getting your ass beat some days.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm not that provoking.
I play the Canadian card a lot.
Oh man, you're just really polite and smile.
No, I just say, I'm Canadian. I don't understand racism. I'm sorry. James Vaughn, he plays that Southern laugh. Ha! Ha! Yeah. You know, I try that occasionally, too. That gets you away with some stuff, I find, you know. You just laugh a little bit, you know. It's
laugh
like
a little bit. Smiles go a long way.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so we may use some of this, too. So we're going to go at around – we're already recording so that we'll edit it up later. So we're going to start out in 3, 2, and 1. You like that?
Well, I was doing your sound check for you.
We are here for another episode of The Other Side of the Tattoo. You can find us at TOSOTT.com. Also on Facebook and Instagram at /TOSOTT podcast. And again, that's not spelled correctly. It's TOSOTT, as in The Other Side of the Tattoo. And with us today is Mr. Kyle Dunbar. Say hello.
Hey, hello. Howdy do, kids.
You may have recognized him from stage and screen.
Stage. Broadway.
He's Broadway. And
I was in Kinky Boots.
He was in Kinky Boots. He started in Kinky Boots.
No, I'm still wearing
that. How many people are going to catch that reference, right?
Yeah.
But you were actually
in New York.
You were actually on Ink Master and season what?
3 and 4.
3 and 4, man.
Feels like 5 and 6, but
repeat stardom. That's awesome. Well, we're here today to talk to you, talk about a couple fun subjects that always provoke a lot of debate in the industry. And so this one's going to be a little more industry driven. So everybody that's not interested in hearing the ins and outs of the tattoo industry and ownership industry and education industry, yeah, go find something else to do. But this one's going to be tied around those.
You know, this is fun for me because I honestly, as sick as it is, I got used to talking to a camera.
Right.
And it became very cathartic. Yeah. And even now, although I don't publish them, I always act like I'm going to. If you go to my website, you'll see that I have posted none, inkbykyle.com.
Well, that's awesome, man. You got to put that stuff out there.
Yeah, but I don't because I don't know. It's a lot of work to edit, and I hate every bit of it.
No, just don't edit it.
I find that I need it.
Leave it alone. Just put it out there.
Judgment from the camera to tell me.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's what's great about it, right? Because what is there, like, the edited bullshit is what you went through on the show, right? So don't do that. Just dump it out there.
Well, a lot of times it becomes fake, too, because I'm contriving it all. I'm not doing it back and forth.
Yeah.
The only good ones are ones where I'll bring my son in or something like that, or I'll grab somebody else so we can bounce ideas back and forth.
Just rant.
No one wants to hear it. They get tired.
Maybe they do. Maybe listen to the Kardashians.
What's that?
But people listen to the Kardashians, so like, you really can't put a cap on what people want and do not want to listen to because
they escape with the Kardashians.
Escape what? Intellect?
Yes, and everything else. Concern. They don't have to worry about much of anything. They wake up 10 hours later and like, oh my God, I didn't eat or pay the bills. It's heroin for the masses.
Oh my God.
I've
done heroin. I've done heroin years ago, and I've listened and watched the Kardashians once, and it was nothing like that.
It wasn't the same.
It was nothing like that. I did not want to do it again.
Okay, yeah, heroin you did. Huh? Well, I'll walk through the room and Candy will have it on. And I'll find I'll pause. I can't help it. It'll be one little thing that you're just like, what the fuck? And then you pay attention, and then you don't notice you stopped until the next commercial break. You forgot what you were even doing.
No.
Same thing happens with my favorite show, or what used to be my favorite show, Teen Mom, OG.
Man, what are you listening to, man? God.
Dude, have you seen the show?
No.
It's so awesome.
No.
Like, listen,
I listen to
the only thing that
Radio
broke me of my addiction to Teen Mom was Trump's presidency, because I love watching train wrecks, and now I just watch. But Teen Mom's awesome. These girls have no skills. What's that?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah,
they popped a baby out their vaginas, and now they're rich off of it.
They're rich. They're rich.
A dick in the butt for it, and she made $1 million. She has become the world's most highly paid porn star.
That's good
Which
for her.
I'm not against her, man. I'd take a dick in the butt for
$1 million. That's a lot of money,
watching, I already cleared it. My wife, she told me, just
that's your hall pass.
What's that?
That's your hall pass.
That's my hall pass. Yeah.
Yeah, mine is like, an actress here or there, and you take the hall pass. That's good. But for the $1 million, that's a much better deal. Like, that's a much better proposition. So
I think I could take one for the team. At this point, there's nothing left in Social Security, so I'm going to need some kind of future. You
got to do something. You got to think. You got to think your family.
I'll be on a jet ski, and I'll have people will be like, "He doesn't look mad,"
Well, let's hit up a couple of these topics quick. Let's jump into this, because I know our conversations are usually pretty fun. So let's open up with tattoo schools. That was a hot topic about a year ago. People, and maybe actually a couple of years ago, people were much more fired up about them. They got a lot more press. People started doing some protests, and they've always been controversial. Like all the ones that I ever experienced through my whole 22 years in the business, they've never gone over well, except for the folks that own them typically. And I'm in a weird position now because I actually have a friend that owns one, and I went to it.
Our mutual friend or not?
In the Northwest.
Okay. Right on.
And I went to it, and I kind of got caught off guard because I knew him and I kind of knew the situation, but I didn't know it. And then I got there, and I was in a school, the 2 stories.
Right.
There's students everywhere. And so I kind of just sat there, and I was like,
I'm supposed to hate you.
Yeah. So I was in just this weird position, and
everybody in the clique back home said, you're doing a bad thing.
Well, and even with my own views, because of the ones that I've experienced weren't credible, whatever accreditation is, because how do you judge accreditation when you don't have something that's credited, right? So it's kind of like with my service dog. Like, I am one of the people who lie and say that my dog is a service dog, and I'm not technically, I say I'm lying, but I'm not, right? Because by the law, your service dog can be trained by you, and the service laws, the way they're regulated, they don't recognize any school. So even if you took your dog to like bourgeois bark and thought you were cool because you spent 50 grand getting your dog trained, the same accreditation goes to that dog as me teaching my dog to sit and roll over.
So you lie about it.
I do and I don't. I feel like I'm lying because I didn't like train him to give me
mouth to mouth. When I say I have IBS to get out of things. Yeah, I do. I have IBS. Some people think it stands for irritable butthole syndrome, but it also stands for I bullshit. So I'm never really lying to you.
Yeah, and I'm not lying either, because my view is I like dogs more than people on almost every situation. So for me, is he an emotional support animal? Absolutely. Like, I am emotionally supported by my dog without question. And is he a service animal? Wherever I take him, everybody's really happy. Every show I've ever taken him to, people got excited. And so, like, I don't pull the dick move and take him to the airport, you know what I mean? And make people like get over so he can fly. Like, you saw that lady with the peacock. She tried to get a emotional support peacock on the plane.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those situations where you can just tell her to fuck off. Like, I saw a picture of a lady. She took a emotional support pony, like a tiny one, the mini ponies, like the size of a dog. She took it on the plane and she got it on.
Wow.
So I give like props to bullshit, because if you can get, if it's legal, get away with it. Go.
Hey, remember What About Bob, the movie?
Yes.
Support goldfish.
Support goldfish. I would like a support crocodile. I think that would be pretty amazing.
A little lion or orangutan. Just goes
Something
and rips
ridiculous.
people's faces off occasionally.
Exactly.
It's mostly okay.
So I'm interested in your view because you wanted to bring up the schools. So let's start.
You know, I've got a son that wants to apprentice right now. My stepson, and he and I can't really apprentice I can't mentor. I'd love to, but he's too far away, and you know, our heads butt sometimes. And the last time it butt, it was over a girl. He had just got out of some time in a relationship, and he got into it with a girl, and she was terrible. And she tried to move into my house. Didn't go over good, and he tried to put his hands on me, and we just kind of split ways a bit. But other people ain't gonna have the same emotion. He can back down to somebody who's his boss. I know that, but there's nobody offering apprenticeships. Even though I've apprenticed some 7 people inside of the area that he lives in now, and I'm further away than he is. Otherwise, I'd still apprentice him at my shop.
And nobody wants to?
Nobody can. Nobody wants to. You know, and I run into that a lot. A lot of pros I hear saying, you know, there's too many tattoo artists in the industry. But I don't think that you can stop ambition by just stopping the teaching. I know that it didn't work for me. When I came up, I didn't have anybody to apprentice me. And so I just started out of the trailer park. And luckily, that worked out well for me. I've seen many people it doesn't.
Right.
I've seen some people get turned onto drugs, crime, any number of things because of it. But, you know, somehow I was able to steer through it.
Right.
It wasn't the right way to do it. But I'm put in this position now where my friend Joey, he just opened a school, Joey Hamilton. He won Ink Masters, and he put like almost $1 million in this place. And he had 4 different teachers. And it's pretty much on the up and up. He was working on financial aid. He had a lot of good backers behind it and stuff. Yeah. And I know him to be a good.
I know Joey.
Yeah, he's not trying to screw anybody over.
No.
Bill Pogue used to be here in Detroit, and he'd run Bill Pogue's world famous tattoo school, and it was $2,500, 2 weeks. He'd take you in, give you a machine, basically slap you on the ass, and kick you out into the world.
Right.
Money.
He's just doing a racket.
Yeah. And then he would take the best of those people and he would run them through his ghetto shop. You know, they would get an actual apprenticeship. And I hired 2 of his guys at one point who had worked at his shop. One of them went through the school and then got the job. And another one just applied at the shop and got it. But I'm put in this position now where I'm wondering, well, what's right and what's wrong? When I listen to tattoo artists' experiences with their apprenticeships, in the majority of times, I hear my first apprenticeship, and I hear oftentimes there's 2. My first apprenticeship sucked. That guy was an asshole. He tried to sexually harass me. In many cases, if it's a girl, he physically abused me. In many cases, if it's a guy, he didn't teach me anything. He tried to take my money. He did take my money. He used my skill as an artist to further his business, and then tried to take credit for all the art that I was doing. All these different kinds of terrible horror stories before they finally fall into somebody. What I kind of figure is sometimes they could shut the fuck up and quit bitching about their hard luck story because it got them in the door. Sometimes. Right. I'm not saying it's right, but here's a guy who didn't have the opportunity to get fucked over by somebody, and took 3 years to finally get my foot in the door. Right. So if you did an apprenticeship and you already had your foot in the door, and then it's an easy transition to a good shop or get a real apprenticeship, right? I don't think you've lost too much sometimes. But I do wonder if that doesn't start opening the way for some kind of a school that has actual oversight. So you're not going to have the harassment. You could have it, but if you do have it, you have actual authority. If you follow me, some repercussions. So like there could be teachers that try to harass students there, but I don't think it would go as far as it has done in many cases with apprenticeships.
Right.
And then there's more oversight and control. And I'm not saying, again, Vice TV just did a show on Joey's place, and they shut him down. Like they came in under the idea like, yeah, we're going to talk it up and, you know, promote you. And then they came out and they had a bunch of industry insiders say, you know, what a terrible idea it is for schools and how it's going to ruin the industry. But my question is it getting ruined already? If we don't train the kids that want to learn, they're going to learn anyways. It's like abortions. People don't want to have them. They'll start having, I mean, if you don't have them legally, you'll start having coat hangers.
Right.
And you actually open up the door possibly to more infection because you're not
shut down like New York did.
Yeah. Because everything is out of the house.
Yeah.
But that's, and I'm at the part of a creative argument here. I don't think I know the answer. You know, I'm looking for answers because,
let's talk about what the other sides of that would be. Okay. Like, so you're talking about a school without the formal board and the formal collections of teachers and academics that would get together and say, this is the criteria, this is what's mandated, this is how you're going to structure this, and these are going to be the requirements and the expectations, and this is the way that we're going to grade it, and this is the way we're going to do all of this. Without any cohesion in the industry to work on a school setting, you're typically left with just a person or two. And they're, you know, at most, maybe a couple partners that end up falling apart. And they're supposed to then outline what is correct and what is necessary and what is like, what determines your next plateau. You know what I mean? Is it that you can do traditional, and then you can do like neo-traditional, and then you can do, you know, this, and then you can do black and gray, and then you can do whatever? Like how would that all go down, right? How does somebody say at the end of an apprenticeship, you are now ready to be a tattooer?
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that comes into play is ego, you know, is like, who are you to say in, you know, an industry like this that's so subjective, that you've accomplished something that we recognize. You know what I mean? Culinary schools, you know, culinary masters all came together and they had, you know, cohesion. And I think that's where it comes into. And then of course, like you say, the fear. People have been, in 22 years that I've been around it, and with having friends like Philadelphia Eddie and Bowery Stan Moskowitz and stuff like that, and Doc Dog and these old timers, I don't think there's ever been a time that somebody hasn't sat around and said, the thing that's happening right now is ruining everything for tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's like the good old days syndrome. Like, there were no good old days. I also get a kick out of watching every couple of years, people who just came in a couple of years prior to that, who were punk kids, who weren't doing it right, who weren't paying respect to the industry, who were fucking up the trade, who were, you know, doing all of this stuff. They come in and it takes them about 3 years to then start spitting out that same noise. Oh, these new ones coming in and they're doing this and what you're doing is that. And everybody in it who's basically alive right now at one time was the asshole kids coming in to ruin everything.
That's how you,
ones before.
It's how you differentiate between being one and not being one, is if you bitch about them.
Yeah.
It's not if you don't act like them. It's instead just if you cut out the middleman. And in 3 years is what they learn is like, if I bitch enough about this shit, they won't be on me anymore about it.
Right. They kind of like force their own view of respect or tenure or expertise or whatever they're doing.
That CS tattoo that seemed to mean something at one point, and I swear to God, I've seen it a million times over now, where I've actually had people that I do respect and that I know that have gotten it, that have had respect, and it was given to them with such amount, and they've offered it to me, and I was like, no, that's all right, man. I got enough tattoos to make me look like a gang member.
My friend Bobby that owns Tribal out in San Diego, California, Tribal Gear. Dude's been in the street clothing, art, graffiti game since like 89, right? And he put out some interesting videos and information and writings about the whole CS movement and all that, like where it really comes from and kind of what's happening with it, et cetera. So that's pretty interesting. But
well, you know, there's another group to appropriate it.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
But the new kids coming in, I don't know. I don't mean to be hard on them, really. But I do know that as we have more and more of us in here, the more fractured it gets, and the more imaginary too. Like we have this imaginary idea of what the old times were.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what I'm getting at. There were no good old days. Like, people talk about the integrity of it and the art of it and blah, blah, blah. No, you talk to the old timers, they were about getting you in the chair and out of the chair and getting that money.
Well,
Like
ask
that was
Jerry what he thought about
no
the
goal.
tattoo artists in general.
Yeah.
And he would tell you that it was the dregs of society, the absolute worst of humanity was drawn inexplicably to tattoos. And I kind of, when I first read that from his own writings, from his own typewriter, I'm kind of like, wow, I don't believe that. When I got into tattoos, I found all these awesome people. But then as I really look around, it's like, well, I did find them, but you scrape that surface, you look around closer, and you remember all the people you've also met along the way.
Right.
The majority of them are pretty damn shitty, you know?
And that's not subject just to this industry. I mean, that's kind of, I feel like that's kind of everything, right? I always kind of imagine that in every city I've ever been, and I've been in a few, that you, in the shop scene and in most things, you have like top 10%, right? Whether it's restaurants, whether it's tattoo parlors, whether it's neighborhoods, whatever, you got like this top 10%. And then you got this bottom, it's usually more like 30, like 20 to 30%. And then you just kind of have the mid-level. Like my shop was a street shop with custom artists and a lot of guest artists that came in from around the country. And this was in the early 2000s when we started this. So it was, we were on that curve, and we never had any misgivings. Like we were there to be a street shop downtown beside bars, and we wanted people to walk in.
Sorry.
And have a good experience. And then, the more seasoned and the veteran and the more custom artists worked their way to literally the back of the shop, those booths as it went to the back, and the more private rooms was kind of like, that's how the tenure worked. But we had, right from the front would be just street level. So I feel like I find that pretty much everywhere, that, each town I go into has about, that top 10 percentile of shops that are blowing away, awesome, creative, imaginative, just devastatingly awesome places to go. But the public doesn't want that. Only 10% of the public actually wants, seeks out, or can afford that type of experience.
I think a lot more of them can afford it if they thought about it differently.
They could, but they don't care. Like there comes this thing in this industry that people forget.
Why would I wait 2 days on a sleeve?
Well, they don't want a sleeve, though. That's the thing. A lot of people just want to go get a tattoo, maybe 2 or 3 tattoos. The majority of people that have tattoos have 5 to 6 tattoos, and that's it. And that's all they'll ever have. I firmly believe that. Like, I think those stats are point on. Sleeves, bodysuits, all of that, that's the top 10 percentile. But if you go through a neighborhood, go to the theater and ask everybody to show you their tattoos, and most people are going to have a few, and they have a ton of pride in them. They love them. They're not caught up in the collecting buzz and feed and all of that. And it's great that the sophisticated collector and the actual informed collector exists, because without them, and we've talked about this on other podcasts, y'all ain't doing shit. You're just banging out, flash and street work, which is great too, because that's acceptable. That's okay. It's all right that not every customer wants to have some fucking.
People need their talismans. We help people escape the banalities of life, and not just on one occasion, because that moment that we tattoo them will live throughout them for the rest of their life. Every time somebody sees it and enjoys it.
Yep.
Or if they hate it, then negative, of course, occurs. Mm-hmm. But that was their choice. Usually they could have gotten a good artist, or they could have gotten a better tattoo. I can't tell you how many. You know it already, how many times you drop something cool and then they get something that's crappy.
Yeah. Well, that's because people get the tattoo they think they should have too. Like I've told the story too many times on this, so I'll just tell it one more. We had an artist in our shop, and he had 2 portfolios, one big one that was full of back pieces and sleeves, and one that was small and it had bangers. One was this big, it was a 4x6 one, and the other was a full portfolio. And people would come in time after time after time and look at both portfolios and then say, I want this one, the smaller, simple one. Same guy, same art, but
that was the artist they wanted.
Well, they could envision it. They could see themselves with a small tattoo. They couldn't see themselves with this back piece. You know what I mean? Yeah. And not everybody is going to go that path. So when it comes to the whether or not any action today is going to ruin everything, that's ridiculous, because I've heard that the entire 22 years I've been in this, that everything done today, what's happening right now, is ruining it.
Yeah.
And that's such a weird idea. Ruining what? what is it that you think you're ruining? These are a bunch of individual businesses that all run themselves however they really want and market themselves however they really want and cater to whatever they want.
I did get to talk to JD Crow the last week or so, and maybe we have ruined it, but I think it's just because there's so many more of us. Certainly, and you don't ruin things by populace. You know what I mean? Certainly, they've also gotten better as more people have been drawn to it. It's just there's not the ability to make millions of dollars in this industry anymore in the easy way that there maybe was before.
I don't think that your average tattooer 20, 30, 40 years ago was ever making millions of dollars.
No, you're right.
That was very, very rare. You didn't have a million companies and a million opportunities and sponsorships to where you wouldn't even pay to travel the world and, just get to tattoo for cash all day and be like brought places in mass numbers. You know what I mean? I don't think that was ever a thing. The only people that ever really made it to that status were ones that bought their shop, bought property in their neighborhood, maybe started a young company.
Other people's artwork.
But not long time ago. I mean, that stuff was given out. I mean, it wasn't even before the flash industry was like a thing. That stuff was just passed along. I think you have way more.
I was asking him about the size of the conventions back in the day and asked him if they got bigger, they got smaller. And he told me about a convention in San Diego, I think it was. Yeah, it was. It was the second or third one. He said they had to shut down the highway. They had 10,000 people through the convention center and they only had 30 artists working it. So that, I guess, is kind of where if I were to imagine that we did ruin it, then it's more like the surprise,
Yeah, I don't think that an industry, because I know a lot of artists, and a lot of them are doing much better than the artists I knew in the 90s.
Right on.
That I knew in the early. I know more property owning, home owning, investing, vehicle owning, toy owning, world traveling artists now, when you used to be able to count that amount of artists and do a small book or documentary on them. And now it's like pretty rampant. Right. I don't think that if the market wasn't sustaining that they would be able to be there. Everyone keeps saying it's going to hit this critical mass, it's going to hit this critical mass. And it will. I mean, eventually things go slightly in and out of fashion. I mean, sure, it's a case. But
we haven't seen it in my lifetime yet.
No, not at all.
Since I've started tattooing 20 years, it's been growing.
Right. And I think that people sometimes underestimate sort of what markets do, right? Yeah, you can definitely hit a critical mass and you shouldn't have 90 shops in one block, sure. But accessibility also produces the desire and produces the interest. So, I can't tell you how many Starbucks I can see in one city, and I've never seen a Starbucks close, except for when the owner actually intentionally closed. I think it was like 600 of them, bought all the rest back, and now they've got 3 times more than they closed on top of what they already had.
About distribution and accessibility.
Right. So it's just, strategic placement, quality product, maintaining, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, more and more I see shops that there's boutique shops out there that are getting numbers that are mind boggling to me. I mean, tattoos can cost the amount of cars, and it's just and people are spending it. I mean, that's great. Awesome. But I don't think that.
I wish I could find more of them. Where they are. That interested me the most is these collectors each of them are so fucking amazing. Anytime I've talked to any of them, they're never the same. You couldn't say collectors are more unique probably than tattoo artists, because we all kind of eventually fit into these little phylums. And then there's these weird ass collectors that their friends don't even necessarily have the same numbers of tattoos that they have,
Right.
Inside of their community, for whatever weird community it is, where they make enough money to get these crazy amounts of tattoos. Seen a guy spend 10 grand on a Steve Butcher tattoo in Indiana a couple of weeks ago over the weekend. It's a beautiful tattoo. But just, I haven't found, I've tried to analyze and be like, well, there's got to be this one thing that's similar about them all. And I don't find it. They're all unique, risk takers. Some of them are more subdued. Some of them are outgoing. Some of them are just inside the house all the time.
Yeah.
They're always interesting to me.
They are. And that they wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the way that the industry has grown and the way that the industry has been exploited. You were on a show, and I've been involved in that heavily. I had one of the finales filmed at our headquarters, the final tattoo. was filmed and tattooed there. So, and I've been to New York for the finale and all of that stuff and all that. I know the producers and all that. And everyone took shots. What's that?
Kick him in the cunt for me. They quit calling.
Well, I
was just mean to him a little bit. They ain't got to stop calling completely. Come on, flirt with the kid a little bit.
Maybe they'll listen. Maybe they'll listen to it. We'll drop it in their inbox for them.
Right.
But people have all kinds of opinions about the shows, et cetera. And the funny thing to me is not that the shows exist, because that's inevitable. Interest is going to spark that up. What's interesting to me are all the people who go on it. And this could be you as well. We've not really dug into this. They go on these shows, experience it, pretty much know what they're getting into, and then get out and rant and rave and lose their minds about what it was, because they have this like idea of how they should be treated, on what it should be about, on what they're doing to the business, and blah, 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 blah. And it was just, you went. And especially now in the industry, no artist is unfamiliar with the rantings of what the show was. And it always seems like the people who give it the most support were the ones who did the worst. Like, if somebody was out on the first season or the first episode or 2 episodes or 3 episodes of a season, they run those banners for the rest of their life.
I'm still running mine.
Dude, they wrap vehicles in it, and they get their cards made out of it, and they do all of this stuff. And so they'll do that. And a lot of the people that want it, like, you never really hear them say anything about it. They're just like, they're off doing their thing. So it's like they got what they wanted out of it and they bounced. And then you have the ones that get
kind of figure out.
What's that?
I mean, at one point, you especially from that higher up perch, you can kind of rise above the quell, and you kind of know, as any winner does, there's a certain amount of doubt in their mind. There has to be. If there isn't, there should be, as to how much was controlled. Although I don't really argue, except for that he's a great artist, but good Lord, he didn't deserve to beat Chris. Chris Blinston's piece was beautiful. That travesty of a back piece they put out there with the funky looking circle on the left hand upper side. Who was it? Vaughn's apprentice did it. The guy that can't do a portrait to save his life. Dave Kruzman. Except for that, I don't really argue with most of the winnings, or at least with the final 3. I don't argue with the final 3.
Right.
Whoever won, that's kind of here or there, but at the same time, I do know that politics go into it a lot, into where you fall out, and they know it too. There's a unique thing that I think that a lot of people will point to one little thing, and they'll talk about the back room being cold or too hot or them getting the wrong food. And these are all true, but I don't think they were ever as malicious as they were imagined. Because when you're in that situation, you begin to imagine you're the only one suffering.
Sure. Well, that's what people do, period. I mean, socially, politically, socioeconomically, racially, like everybody victimizes themselves, regardless of their actual situation. Not that they don't actually have those situations. Yeah. Once they see an opportunity to latch onto it and say, woe is me, and let me sing my song. I mean, everybody does it.
I'm not above that myself, but I do feel like if I'm aware of it happening, then I'm a little bit more aware of when it's happening to me. And I try to stand back. So from that third person, I'm watching it. And I did see things like this, like Joey or Jimmy, they put blue cheese on his brisket one day, and he doesn't like cheese. And he was just mad. But at the same time, it was during the filming time when he just got chewed out. So, his emotions are raw. It wasn't really the brisket. I just sent him over the edge. But for me, there was one point that I can show you that when they say this was a random draw or something like that, boy, I have a lot of suspect on those kinds of things. Like when I do a 476 page questionnaire to figure out my personality, and then sit down with a psychologist to go over that questionnaire. He asks me questions like, says here, you've had unnatural sex. And you're like, well, I didn't know how to answer that one. You see, I've had good sex, and I can't imagine good sex is natural. So it must be unnatural is what I was thinking. But when they ask you these many questions over top of your questions, they know who you are.
Right.
And then to me, when they tell you it's just the luck of the draw, Kyle, that you got number 13 today of the prison cells. It's no irony that we know that you have a certain amount of angst and anger inside of you, and even you've been institutionalized before. We're going to put you in front of number 13, and it's just the luck of draw that 13 is a model who wants to be an actor, who is told to be angry and try to fight with me. That wasn't luck of the draw.
Right.
You know, maybe it was. I can't say it definitely was, but on one day, I can definitely say this. Geometry day, I did a perfect circle on a guy's chest. And they always mention 1, 2, and 3 people. You did good, and you did good. And then from the 3 of you, we're going to pick 1. And that time, they only mentioned 1 and 2. Now, the only person that could have been 3rd, and the only person that should have won that day, still in my opinion, and others around the world, but who cares? It's the perspective, the uniquely subjective perspective of the judges that we have to comply with. So they only mention 2 people, though. Why would you only mention 2 people? Unless you're trying to keep all encouragement away from Kyle, who desperately needs it so that he can fight. Because if you take all my encouragement and you give someone else all the encouragement, say Scott, the person who had so much encouragement that I almost feel those producers are somewhat responsible for his downward spiral. Because when you come out into the real world after you've been told how great you are and it starts crashing on you, no, they just built you up. And they built him up because his unique weakness to be of his pride. He had such a good pride, and so they wanted to get him up in the room. There's a document. There's a TED Talks about these 2 monkeys, capuchin monkeys. They put next to each other. They're from the same tribe. They give them the same task to do inside of glass cages. They take a rock, put it from one hole into the other. One of them gets a cucumber and he starts to eat it pleasantly happy. He likes eating cucumbers. He's eating one. Have I already told you about this?
No, I listened to TED Talks.
You see it then? The other one gets
a
grape.
Story.
They're doing the same thing. When they give the grape monkey, he's like, oh, cool, I love grapes. But the cucumber monkey's like, whoa, hey, that's a grape, dude. And I like grapes too. So give me the monkey, give him the rock back. He puts it through the hole again. He's like, okay, now give me the grape. Give me the grape rock. Nope, he gets the cucumber. He's like, what? He throws it back at the scientist. And then they go ahead and they give the rock to the monkey again. The other monkey gets the grape. The other monkey inside with the cucumbers just pissed off. They give him the rock. He smashes it on the wall. He tries to play keep away. Like, hey, look, I got it over here. It's valuable to you, right? So give me a grape. And then he puts it through the hole and he gets another cucumber and he's fucking pissed. He wants to kill him. Recognizing that before he was happy with the cucumber, but when he saw that he was doing the same job and getting unequal pay, he was driven crazy by it. Crazy, rage. And that's exactly what they knew they were doing to me. And when they gave Scott critiques, they would continually say, this is the best critique we've ever given. And they would continually tell me especially, but other people, nobody else got praised like Scott did. But certainly myself, who has this kind of chip on his shoulder, and it's coming back from the last episode, I kept getting told that I was crazy, as though they wanted me to be. And then on this day, when I should have been awarded number 1, they don't even allow me to be in the running. They only mention 2 people. And at that point, that was kind of when it really started to turn. I was like, everything that Clint Cummings told me before, everything that Jimmy told me before, everybody that ever felt like they were being subjected to some kind of unfair circumstance because of the writing or the producing or whatever, was trying to get some drama out of it. That's when I'm like, I'm in your shoes. I see it. And this is 100%. There's no argument about that. There wasn't a mistake that they didn't mention my name. No one else could have been mentioned that day. If Halo had been mentioned for the triangle that he did, it could have been an uproar because it certainly wasn't as good as mine, and his critique wasn't as good as mine. My critique got one of the best critiques of the day. As a matter of fact, I used my critique to, man, you can tell I'm butthurt about it, can't you? Listen to me keep
a little
going.
bit. That's okay. Get it out.
But that's the angst of it. Is like I don't believe that I'm the ink master. I never thought that I was going to be the guy that could win. And then when I saw how good I did the first time, I was excited because I thought with a little bit more preparation, some time, and kind of some paying attention to what they were asking, I'd be able to go back. But then when I went back, I kind of began to realize it was never in the cards for you. You're more here for their entertainment, you know.
Right.
They purposely want to make you mad because they saw it. You didn't. Did I tell you I fought with Chris twice, right? You never saw it the first time, but on the first season, Chris and I had it out because he was being a dick, and I put him in his place. And I'm pretty good with my words. And if you get me riled up too, I got passion behind it, you know. And these guys came in being dicks, and they were drunk, and they were condescending, and they made it harder for my customer to continue. And then when we got up there to be judged, you know, Navarro's like, "Hey, Kyle, you look pissed off." I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking pissed. And he's like, well, go ahead and tell us. That's why we're here, Kyle. I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, you ever come to my shop being belligerent and being an asshole, just basically an asshole like you were. I don't care whatever reason you have because you're drunk or not. I'll kick you out. And if you don't want to leave, I'll happily make you leave. And I kind of threatened this big Texan there, Tony Kundal, that day. It's like, you know, if your big ass don't want to leave, I'll make you leave. And then they said, well, you know, kind of we were drinking because it was his birthday. I said, well, you know, I don't really care why you made the mistake. I'm waiting for an apology. What I do want to tell you is that you walked around here like you were condescending. You treated all of us like we were lower than you, but you don't have the balls to be down here competing against us. And that irony will not escape me. Because when you sit up there in your high judgment, but you don't have the balls to be down here making $100,000, then I got to know that you're not the artist that you claim to be when you're walking around like that. And well, I've made it to a spot in my career where I don't need Ink Masters. Well, that's interesting because you're here. You might want to check your Google Maps. You might want to check in on your Facebook because you're here, whether you think you need it or not. Well, my kids would like to see me on TV. Yeah, I get it. You need it to think your kids are cool. Your kids need to think you're cool somehow. They know you as the dick that you probably obviously are. And so you need the show to make them, I'm with it. But that's neither here nor there for me. My point is you don't have the balls to be down here. And that's irrefutable. Furthermore, let me then point out to you that one of us is going to be the Ink Master. It's not going to be you. It's going to be one of us. And when we're the Ink Master of shit, who the fuck wants to be that? So when you come in here with that condescending attitude and you sit down on that dais with the rest of those judges there, you bring that level of respect to them, to their show. So today, I got to ask you, Dave, how does it feel to be the judge of shit? And Oliver, yourself, you like being the judge of shit? Chris, I know it doesn't sit good with you that today you're the judge of shit because your friend came here and brought a shitty attitude. And they're all just like, I mean, because they couldn't say anything. They were condescending. They were drunk. It was Chris's birthday. And it put them in their place. They left. They came back 45 minutes later, and they were well more subdued. They weren't the same dicks they were a minute before.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it gets on because I fucking let loose on the motherfuckers. I was crisp with my speech. It was all on point. But it wasn't going to happen. They will not ruin the icon image that they have worked in millions of dollars went into making those people, those two guys, icons. I mean, you and I know them as bad tattoo artists. And the rest of the world imagines them as amazing tattoo artists. But, you know, how many times I get someone comes to me, I know they're so good and stuff because I'm like, really, do you? How do you know that? Well, I've never really seen their work. I mean, but, you know, they're on the show and they judge it. And I'm like, yeah, follow their Instagram. You'll notice that they never post anything of their own. Or if it does, you can judge it by their own level, you know, critiques, and it will fall. It always does. But I'm bitter. I'm butthurt. I actually began thinking I wanted to start a show called The Grudge Judge and try and have people send me their grudges, and I wanted to help them feud it out, you know, to fight it out amongst themselves. Like if they built decks and this guy's always, you know, talking shit about the way he builds decks. He's like, I'm going to build a better deck. I'm going to set them up. You guys build a deck and we have a winner and gets judged. But because of my unique, you know, not a lot of people have the same kind of problems that I do, but my unique thing is these people that I have a grudge against, I'll never see it settled, because for them to even come and try and fight me in a technical field, battle of some sorts in a tattoo off, they would lose their status as icons just by entering the competition. And certainly after I beat them, they would have, you know, even less status. So then they would lose their $10,000 paychecks or whatever they get now. And I don't know, everybody's somebody's bitch. So they're Paramount's bitch, you know. But
how do you really feel?
I'm a bitch to the grudge. I'm still pissed about it. It isn't that the wrong person won. It's that you feel like you should have been given a more fair chance, but for the idea of entertainment, and they told me 1,000 times over, we're making an entertaining show. If we don't make an entertaining show, then what good was it, Kyle? It's like, well, fuck, I'd like to win. I'm here for 100,000. You didn't tell me, hey, Kyle, we're going to have you out and we're going to make an entertaining show. You know, at one point that I realized you were lying to me, he told me he put his finger in my chest to make me perform better. But yet he judged me 13 sometimes up to that point and told me I was performing worse. So which is it? Do I perform better with a finger in my chest? Hey, right. If Melissa does better with chocolate cake, you going to bring chocolate cake into the set tomorrow? No, because we'd all bitch about that because you'd be making her perform better and be unfair. So get your finger out of my chest. But if you look at the same thing and you judge by yourself that I'm not performing better, well, then you're insane. I only know that because you explained the definition to me. Chris Nunez explained to me that I was acting crazy, expecting the same types of tattoos to win, so that I was expecting the same procedure but a different result. And he says, that's the definition of crazy. Well, here we are. You're putting your finger in my chest to make me perform better. But yet by your own admission, 13 times now, I'm not performing better. As a matter of fact, I'm performing worse and worse according to your own. So why do you keep putting your finger in my chest? Oh, I perform for the camera good. I get that. That's what it's about. Me performing for the camera. And at that point, I just wanted to beat his ass. Then he called me out, and it like, I swear to God, it felt like if you ever been locked down for a couple of days or any amount of time in your life, it doesn't matter. You feel a certain amount of fear that one day you're going to be in your buck and somebody's going to yell out, Dunbar's a bitch. And tomorrow you got to get in a fight and go to solitary. It's like, got to happen or you're a bitch. That fucker told Violent J or General J to come on up to him. He says, make sure you tell Kyle he could have justifiably gone home. And I'm like, what the fuck? It just pumped me up like I had to fight him. I had to get my tray out and beat him over the head with it, you know? And we'll see you see how it didn't work for me, actually, I guess. But God bless it. Yeah, see, it still fires me up. I'm still butthurt. God damn it.
I'm interested in that because in talking to you on other subjects, you're super introspective. So I'm going to pose a scenario here as somebody in that's done a lot of different things in my life and a lot of different types of businesses and different types of marketing and different branding and, you know, different things that I've done. When the first season came out, I knew exactly what that show was going to be. I knew exactly what it was. It's a game show, and you're meant to trigger people. Like you said, you had psych evaluations. You had hundreds of questions asked about you. They need character types. Like, how does anybody not have seen the real world and not get what they were going to do? You got to have a puck. You got to have, you know, different ethnicities. You got to have males and females. You got to have different personality types. That's all scripted. Everybody knows it.
Well,
and that's been
realization too, though. Because
that?
You asked me about it. I'd say it's a slow realization because inside you don't want any of that to be true. You don't want to be there because you have the blonde streak in your hair or the cool neck tattoo. You want to be there because you're a good artist. You know that isn't the truth necessarily because you went through the process and you saw better artists not get picked up for the show.
Yeah, and you see terrible artists get picked for the show to be fodder.
But like you want to imagine that it's something special. So the whole time you're allowing yourself to buy into it. That's why when people go back the second time, the veil is dropped and every one of them has a hard time. You don't see anybody go back and be like, man, it was so much easier the second time. It's always harder because you already know that your fate is controlled by more than just your tattoos and more than just class challenges. It's also controlled by the things you say and the storyline that the editor and the writers want to start going with. And
I get that.
When the editor wants to, or when the writer wants to go with a storyline, he starts instructing the producer to try and push the drama in a fashion.
Of course.
And
it's reality television, though. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, how many different examples, you know, you make fun of the Kardashians. We talk about this, we talk about that, you know, whatever it is, since the real world forward, I mean, from the scripted nature of it all is a given. This is a product that's like how they told you, we're trying to make entertaining television. They're not obliged to you. They're obliged to a channel and to advertisers.
Put yourself in that situation for a second too, and then ask yourself at that point that you realize that and you feel like you've made this kind of maybe lottery win, right? For your chance at 100,000. You're still gonna try.
Of course. Why wouldn't you?
And you're still gonna be disappointed when you find out that you're not making the grade. Really.
Here's how I would approach it. And I can say this because I'm not on it and I would never be on it. I don't tattoo. So like the idea that you would go there and not know that this was an opportunity for you to market your name only, win or lose. And the goal to stay on it longer is to get more recognized so you can brand your name. Like American Idol, it's usually the people that got second, third, and fourth place that ended up becoming the superstars. Like that's kind of a known thing. It was the ones who just got their music out. They didn't have to win. They just had to get their music out. So if I were to approach anything like that, I would use it 100% as a branding tool. You're getting free airtime worldwide, syndicated show, in reruns forever. Like, I mean, the Andy Griffith show still runs.
Would sell you.
Right, but that's what it should be. But that's what it should be. And what's funny is, because I know most,
then you're going to start playing along with them, and the very first thing,
no doubt, you should go to win.
You have to get a alliance going. And
sure.
You notice how now they have it driven on the third season. You didn't really see alliances that formed except for slight natural alliances just for the day. Everybody wanted to win themselves, and we had a lot of integrity. Fourth season, they really beat us down. They bought the best producers they could that knew how to help make alliances. And then you start to see the fifth, the sixth, the seventh season, they've all got the alliances already built into the formula. Mm-hmm. Where they're like, these guys are against each other. These mm-hmm. guys are from the same team. These guys are from the same shop.
Yeah, 2016 elections.
Yeah. So now they've actually already got people that are working together, which inspires them to work in other groups more. Which, I mean, tattooing's individual. It's not broken down into this, but they're making it entertaining. I think it waters down the win of Ink Master now. Like, you're not really like, oh, you're Ink Master. I get it, but are you an Ink Master, or did you and your alliance make the best power moves during the show? Did you have the best storyline? Juan Salgado is from Puerto Rico. We'll see how that plays out for him this time. If it comes down to it, sometimes some people would say that Ryan shouldn't have won over Gio.
But everybody always says everything about everything.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not whether or not you get caught up in it. My thing to you and all the other conversations and topics that we've gone over is that, like, how did you lose sight that this was the game going into it from the moment you sat down and had interviews? And I think that, and I say this respectfully, I think that tattooers in particular are a good target for that show, because there is so much personal ego involved and so much self-gratification. You talk about how they pump you up. Artists get pumped up. Watch a shit artist put a picture on Instagram of his first tattoo in a kitchen and say, what do you think? He or she's going to get a ton of people, depending on who his friends are, that say, that's the coolest thing I ever seen in my life. That's amazing. You're incredible. And I've watched artists do that their whole career.
Andrea especially, but one of the producers, their executive producers, so I'm coming back from the first season. Everybody's telling you as you're leaving, and I'm already broken. My brain's broken. I swear to God. After the first season, I'm leaving, and I've missed my family so much. I barely know who I am. I've been critiqued about my artwork. I don't know who I am as an artist. I'm more in question of it than ever before. I thought I knew who I was going in, and or I thought I was figuring it out, and I ended up coming out a lot more behind. But I started buying into the belief, man, everybody likes you, Kyle. Man, we love you. America loves you. People would love to see you win. Would you like to come back? We'd love to see you. We're here for the story. It would be so great if you could come back and win. Then you begin to imagine, well, these guys really want me to win. And maybe
you're like, maybe the rigging is going to be rigged in my favor.
Exactly. No, honestly, 100%. And I would take that bet, right? Then as you get there and you realize, oh, I forgot. When I first came here, I was cast. They give you a cast name. They call it your wardrobe name.
Yeah, and they dress you.
How they determine how you're going to dress. I was graphic t-shirt guy for how I dressed, but I had a different name when I was being presented to the corporates. So when they pick people out, just like they do in the real world, they're like, this is the sweetheart. This is the party boy. This is the party girl. This is the nerd. This is the artist. You know what I mean? They always have these people. Yeah. Well, in this situation, they had the all-American hothead. They had Too Cool for School. They would give everybody these names like Girl Next Door, The Vamp. I doesn't play well with others. So from that though, imagine how they're going to begin to write your storyline. To me, I feel like I was doomed from the beginning.
Yeah.
I had to have conflict.
Yeah.
And conflict always ends up with somebody winning or losing. And it doesn't necessarily, or it ends up with a climax, but it doesn't necessarily end up with someone winning or losing, you know?
Right.
Well, they could lose. But it doesn't necessarily, it's not a shoo-in for a win. And as you begin to realize, especially the second time, when I realized they did that monkey shit to me with the cucumber, and I was blown away, because honestly, that day, I really thought I was going to win. I did the best tattoo. I laid it bare, and I didn't cover it up with a bunch of shading. And they told Scott, which amazed me, because Scott had already been getting his dick sucked, and they already saw that we were going at each other, because at one point he did a shark that they said was the best shark they'd ever seen. And I was like, then they compared it to my tattoo. And my tattoo was lacking, as though they said, because they thought the sky looked funny and all these different reasons. When they compared my sky to his sky, I was then able to say, well, thanks for your comparison, because now I can point out that the sky that you just said, my sky, which is actually underwater, but it looks like a funky, weird sky, you said. You don't know if you're underwater. His sky, or his underwater, was actually a sun, just radiations of suns, the old school kind of straight lines that go through it. It's fine, it looked good. The thing about it is, when you're underwater, the light is diffused by the plane of the water and the many different planes of the waves. So that doesn't happen. You don't see a radius underneath the water spreading out just like a sun. That happens in the sky. So since he told me mine was a funky, weird sky, and I should have done the sun more like Scott's did, I said, well, Scott's did a sky, a sun that's in the sky. So I couldn't do it like his, because I'm trying to do something more realistic. And then I could, say some other things, like he had a silhouette in front of the sky, which meant that the silhouette was like a dinky thing, or whatever. I beat it up a little bit, and I was just amazed that they said it was the best one ever. And then that's when I started to realize, when they wouldn't mention me for number 2. And Scott did a piece from his portfolio, actually. It was a clip art piece. It's just a bunch of geometric shapes, and he put them on with really poor line work. And I was really I'm like, he's going to get tore up today. His shading is fair at best, and his line work is all over the place. Like, the diamonds don't look like diamonds. The circles don't look like circles. I don't even think he had circles. They're all squares, but nothing looked right. It wasn't straight. It wasn't parallel, but then they praised it. And then they said of Sausages that they liked the way he had a couple of bad line work, but he covered it up with the shading. And that's when I knew I had lost for sure, because what they said about mine was they loved my tattoo's technical ability. But the one spot where the guy hiccuped, and there's a little dot outside of the line, just the smallest little dot. They said they didn't like that, and that I should have covered up with shading. That's how they sold Sausages. They're like, you did bad line work, but you covered up with shading. Mm-hmm. Kyle, you did one little mistake. Not bad line work, not several line works, one little mistake, but you didn't cover up with shading. So you lose. Which was amazing to me. It wasn't that I lost. It was that I didn't get any acknowledgement. I got no encouragement. And that's when I realized, oh, this is all, again, contrived to make me mad. Just like it was the first. That's when I look back at the first season, too, for the first time with newer eyes. I was like, oh, was it really ironic that I got number 13 and I got a jail cell and they only had the angriest guy in there? Yeah, I could have gone to anybody. If that gone to a Lil Gnome, Jason Clay Dunn or something, that would have been a whole different outcome, and it would have been boring. Jason would have backed down. I'm sure most of the guys would have backed down, but they knew that they had a guy who was ready to fucking fight, so they put me in the room with them, and they get exciting TV. And at that point, then you're just like, well, what the fuck? I'm here for 100,000. My family don't get a whole bunch from exciting TV. Yeah. I don't have a product line that I sell. And I'm not like a St. Mark, who is an awesome marketing guru who comes out with some awesome. Have you seen his products? Mm-hmm. They're fucking awesome. Anointment. That's so cool. Holy water. Fucking dick. Fucking so slick. But yeah, I don't have anything like that, and I didn't want to. I wasn't there for that. I was there to test out my ability, see where I did land, And then the second time I came back, I was really there to try and win. And then when you started realizing that it wasn't in the cards, or at least the easy time wasn't in the cards, maybe you can get up to the stage. I think in hindsight, the way she talked to me after I got in a fight with him, I'm pretty sure that they had it in the cards that I was at least going to get to the finale. And it's up to the judges. It always is. But there's some heavy push on their part. If Tattoo Baby has a nice set of tits and a big fat ass and 100,000 Twitter followers, you're going to put her on stage before Kyle. And if Kyle can drum up some support on his Twitter follow by getting in a shark cage and having a tattoo off, then that makes sense. He's built up. He's built up some kind of status, and now people are going to want to view him and see him, fail or win or whatever. So when I got in the car and I just pushed this guy, she says, "Would you like to come back?" I'm like what, next season or something? And she says, "No, I mean, would you like to continue the competition?" I'm like, that's an option? I just threw that kid. And then you got me in front of his face, and he tried to patch it up, said some stupid shit, and I had to throw him again. No, I don't know how that would work. I mean, yeah, I don't want to go home. I feel like a bitch right now. I mean, at that moment, my brain was broken, and I felt like I didn't do what I wanted to do. I just did what came naturally and what rage told me to do. And then when she said that she could talk to the executives, I realized, yeah, you were probably supposed to get on the stage, weren't you? Why does she care? Because you just threw this guy. You physically threw this guy.
Yeah, but that's also good. You don't want to get rid of that. You want to keep that in because it might happen again. It might be worse.
Well, that's when she backed off from it, because I said, well, yeah, but I'll tell you, I didn't plan on doing anything I did to him today. So if I get back on, I don't want to be liable.
Right.
I don't want to be actionable. I don't want to end up in jail because I'm under this duress and the kid's fucking with me. He told me to come at you. He said, come at me, bro. So to me, I don't know, that was something. It wasn't like it was an aggravated assault, I guess. Definitely aggravated. But at any rate, when I said that too, and she thought about the lawyers, she was like, oh yeah, never mind. And at that point, I couldn't even be Wolverine. Wolverine can't be in a room alone with me.
Well, the problem was you said it. Like once you made that statement, then it could have come back and you could have been like, look, I brought it up, blah, 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 blah. So,
which in hindsight, I could have said it in the beginning, and it kind of makes me wish I did punch the kid, but that's wrong. But in my brain, somewhere in the back of it, it's like, you could have got away with it, dude. Like you would have been like, dude, I was under so much duress that you would have pulled out that monkey and the grape thing in front of a court of jury, your 12 peers. There's no way. Everybody loves TED Talks. You would have all day long, but lawyer fees and all that, And I think I made the better choice of it in the end to not punch him. But man, they get in your head, and they definitely work at it. The nice part for me is coming out of it. These now I'm starting to actually be able to watch the show. If I haven't been able, like I can. But I end up looking in the mirror and yelling at it for a while. I don't even expect myself to do it, but I'll go in the bathroom for a minute, and the next thing I know, I'm having a conversation with Nunez and Ollie, and I'm like,
yelling at him.
Yeah, and then by then I'm just all pissed off because they'll say some of the same stupid shit that doesn't line up. And now more than ever, I see it. I'm like, that producer told that person to say that. That is being said to push this part, it's,
of course,
it's still being driven. In the end, if you go out and you see 6 people or 16 people tattooing, you're going to have your favorites after the first 2 to 3 competitions. You're going to imagine which one's going to win. And by halfway through that show, unless something barring a crazy happenstance, your guy is going to make it. You know what I mean? And at that point, when you realize that there's only 3 people making it, everybody else becomes fodder.
Yeah.
So we get mad because we're like, I should have left on 6, not fucking 7 or 3 or whatever it was, going home.
Right.
And we're like, I was better than so-and-so or something. But it's kind of neither here nor there because in the end, there's only 3 of them going. And it made a better story. Joshua Hibbard, that guy had to stay there. He did 4 bad tattoos, 2 good tattoos. But they decided to send home somebody who had done 2 good tattoos, and this was his second bad tattoo. And it was on is Craig Foster, and that blew my mind. That was the first day that I was like looking for Toto. You know, I'm like behind me. I'm like, is that a dude back there behind that curtain? Like, no, look ahead, right up there. They actually came out because a lot of us were bitching, and I think I was the only one that really mentioned anything. Like, I stuck to it for a while. Everybody else, and I was happy. I was happy to get rid of Craig too. I thought he should have won. So I was scared to fight against the kid, you know, and tattooing. But
he's a bad dude.
Oh, he's awesome. And he's so funny.
He's
great.
Solid dude.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Watching him go home and then seeing how everybody reacted the next day when we're all just like, Josh shouldn't be here. And they take the 3 judges come in and they had an aside with no cameras. And they were like, hey, a lot of you are bitching about, you know, Josh shouldn't have gone home, or Josh should have gone home, and Craig shouldn't have gone home. And they talked about it for a while, and they sufficed it by saying they brought Jimmy in, and they're like, Jimmy, you saw the tattoo though up there on the set. We were looking at the same thing, and the black and gray was done really bad. And I kept protesting. I'm like the only person. They had to eventually say, Kyle, we've already answered that. And I kept saying, but it wasn't black and gray day. It was proportion day. How does that, you know? Same for me. The same kind of goes for me when I don't even do portraits anymore, not because I don't like them. I think there's a certain amount of fear for me to do them because people saw me do what was described on the show as the most accurate portrait on Accuracy Day. However, it's unfortunate that it's also the most unappealing. I didn't pick my subject matter.
Right.
I did it accurately. You know, and it drives you crazy when you're thinking about that. You're like, so now I don't do as many portraits as a result. Man, that still gets to me.
Yeah, it's way in your head, man. Like even like objectively, when trying to like break it down for you, it's like it's renting way too much space. You got, and I think this is one of the reasons that so many artists in a lot of fields need to be artists and not work in other environments. Because other environments are antagonistic and confrontational and embattled by nature all the time. And I don't think a lot of the artists I know could handle it. There are a few, but all in all, I mean, this shouldn't be a thing. Like, this is like, it was just an opportunity. I mean, you guys were going for a job, basically, and you all basically did working residences to like see who was going to get the position in the hospital to be the doctor. And more than half are really taking it badly, and it's still set in. So none of y'all should have been doctors.
You take the criticism that they're given to you at that moment. So
sure.
So it seems real. Not that it
criticism is real,
but it goes on for 20 minutes, whereas we see 10 to 13 seconds of it. And
oh, absolutely.
As it goes on for that 20 minutes too, you really begin to believe it. Then you go home and you watch it and you're like, are you fucking kidding me? I don't know what fog I was in. Everybody's tattoos look better than mine. Every time I would do a tattoo, I thought every day I'd tell my wife I'm going to go home. I said, I think I could go home tomorrow. Yeah. That was the first time I was on the show. The second time I had a better idea of where I was at, but Tattoo Baby was fucking up tattoos and I thought they looked good. And then I'd start to look at them as we critique them. And I'm like, okay, but she's still beating me, even with these crappy tattoos sometimes, even unfinished ones. Then we go back and watch the season and I say, oh my fuck, they're holding her hand. You know, I didn't see it before and I'm right there. It was being imagined and talked about somewhat, but I didn't want to believe it. Again, I wanted to believe that this was true and not a fictional thing.
Where did y'all get it in your head? Where did you get it in your heads though? This was some interesting way that the television world just decided we're going to be honest and true to art and give the best artists the opportunity to prove themselves. Like, where did you get that in your head?
From the show itself. Because we all watched the first season and the second season and the third season. And each of those 3 seasons, they said, we've gathered 16 of the world's best tattoo artists.
But you knew that wasn't true.
8 of them that sucked. We knew it wasn't true.
Right.
But on that scale, we imagined that they just had a failing somewhere of picking. You know what I mean? Like, we knew it wasn't true. But
well, it definitely opened up more and more because I sat with people that were on the show many of them. I've known a good deal of the people that have been on the shows, and remember them having,
Probably about all of them, really, by this point. As much
before they all went on it, I knew, like, the first several seasons, I knew everybody, pretty much everybody, that, unless they were like completely, off the cut. But I remember those same people before the show, before they got their opportunity to go on it, ranted and raved about those shows. These are the worst things that ever happened. This is the thing that's going to ruin the tattoo industry. I'm integrity, and this is bad. And, they're my friends, so I'm just like, yeah, I'm listening to you.
I always took the other side.
That call came, boom, on that plane. Fast. Then, after leaving,
the people that give me the most hell about it, still to this day, you can find their YouTube tapes for their auditions.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's real.
Josh used to give me hell, Josh Payne. And when I found out he was right away.
That's my buddy, man. He's on right now. Yeah, it's not sellout, man. There's such an self-imposed hierarchy to this, and integrity base, and all of this stuff that people do. We just saw this all happen with a product that didn't even make it to market before it was destroyed publicly.
Tattoo product, or?
Not really, sort of. It was supposed to be, but it didn't make it, and it just got ripped apart because a bunch of the people that backed it were always the people who were at that upper echelon of, you don't do this, you don't buy into products, nothing that's not from the tattoo industry, and blah, blah, blah,
right.
All this stuff. And then when they saw an opportunity, they took it. And that's what's really crazy is people paint themselves into these corners by saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. And then the opportunity comes, and then they want to validate it by saying, oh, blah, 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 blah. This happened, that happened, somebody else did it, blah, blah, blah.
Right. But my opposition to this very thing for so long actually makes this one product stand out higher and above, because obviously if it changed my mind, or I imagine is kind of the idea that they're going with when it's the product that they're saying, that they're being bought up. But it's funny in this industry, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, certainly judgment, and we always existed on the fringe of society, and we become society again, just on a microcosm.
Right.
The things that, like, there's words like loyal to the coil. You know how funny I find that shit? Because if you're loyal to the coil, then you're not really progressing your tattoos. And I'll argue that by saying, because you're not trying everything. I mean, when if so many people are doing great artwork with these coil or these rotary tattoo machines, shouldn't you give them a try? And then if you have given them a try, you're no longer loyal. Even if you went back to the coil, that wasn't loyalty. When I cheat on my wife, even if I go back to her, that was not loyalty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, there's so many ironies in
there are, and they're self-imposed and they're unnecessary is what I'm getting at, because like people, like, I'll never understand. And, I went through this, owning a shop and owning a brand, and like, a lot of different markets, owning a expo. Me and Danny Knight had an expo. And I watched the bickering and battling between internal groups of this industry on every level. Ink, aftercare, machines, shows, shirts, fucking anything you can imagine. Shows. The shows fought each other. The shows talk shit about each other. Idiots put out material after they sought fame that said don't seek fame. Crazy shit like that, where you're like, why are you so caught up in this? Like, I don't know any of you before I came into this. So I came into it and I'm like, hi everybody, it's great to meet you. This is what I do. And everybody's like, you're awesome. Let's all talk and hang out. And we have this long time together. And then sooner or later, there's just this need to just start fucking taking each other apart. For no reason. This is one tiny little industry trying to establish itself in a world that doesn't barely even know you exist. We think it's big because we're inside it, but that's the only place that exists. The Super Bowl, I'm in Philly right now. They went fucking crazy in the streets. More people than were out in the streets could give a fuck less. And they didn't go out, and they don't care. And they probably wondered why people were beeping their horns, and they don't give a shit. Because it's not important to them.
Right.
And the unfortunate thing that happens in every aspect of life that I've experienced is when you turn on each other and when you turn on yourselves for your own choices. And these people that back themselves into this corner, like the ones who make the biggest stink and then go and be on a show, could have avoided that by just not really giving a shit. Like, what do you really care that there's a show that exists? Like,
Well,
what is it? How does it
down,
really bother you?
deep down, it was all about the little boy inside or the little girl inside that didn't get hugged by mom enough or didn't feel they did. And
Well, and for
somebody getting hugged and accepted, it's same thing when I know people like Marshall Bennett exist, Bob Tyrell and Tom Renshaw, and somebody comes into the shop and they're like, "Oh my God, one of these days I'm going to get tattooed by Kat Von D," and you're like, "Oh, wow, well." You know, meanwhile, you know that somebody's available. Like Marshall Bennett could get you in probably he's probably booked up more now. But back in the day, you know, there was people around that could do that tattoo in my hometown, and they would always come in talking about it. And it would always, it'd raise up your anger a little bit, you know?
Right.
Like,
Marshall's another great guy.
Yeah,
Actually, everybody you just named is awesome. But,
Tom has his days, I hear, but I've never been on the bad side of him. So
you
don't see him anymore.
I haven't seen him since their shop in Detroit, Electric Superstition. Yep. Like, it's been a hot minute, but
I think he's still around, but he's like
he's around
in Alaska or something.
Yeah, he's fucking
Mount Everest or something.
Drawing and tackling elk and bear or something like that. This giant self, but no, that's really the trick to it, man. Is like, why does this side of the business have such an interest in you know, bastardizing other sections of the same thing, just to one day have the opportunity to take advantage of it and see if it benefits them? Like, just live your life, focus on what you do. If people appreciate you, great. You don't need to seek it. You're never going to get appreciation or respect by going for it. You know what I mean? You're never going to like force people to respect you. You're just going to be what you are. And if people respect you, great. And if they don't, also great. And like,
it sounds
trying
like
not to get caught up in that. What's that?
I feel half the time we're almost talking about politics now.
We are, but I mean, everything relates. Everything's all interconnected. This is the politics of this side of the industry. And I just never understood why people, like demonize the whole experience so much. Why the people who demonized it the most ended up either hosting their own show, being on a show, and then when they were kicked off the show, anytime they ever dangled a plane ticket in front of them to go be back on a show, they would go for it. And like, it's like, that's to go after it honestly and to be like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna go do this show and I'm gonna kill it and I'm gonna have a great time and I'm gonna do my best. Go for it. It is an amazing marketing opportunity. People will remember your name for a very long time. And if you market it correctly, it can be for the rest of your career. And when you're thinking about longevity in a field where 18-year-olds are coming into the game every day and are better than you, that's something to be aware of. You need to have some sustainability, notoriety, have connected with enough people to make you valid past your 15 minutes. And that's all it's for, man. Use the shit out of it. Maximize that exposure for everything that it is and get from it. But to go into it, have the experience, go back and have the experience and let it tear you up as much as it's tearing you up.
Yeah.
That's complex.
Yeah. Well, you know,
I can't tell.
I seriously, I think it comes out. This is why I need things like this. I think.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
I mean, the books I've read since I've been there are How to Win Friends and Influence People. I've already read that one. I just like reading it again. The Art of Happiness, and one we're working on right now is the Rage, the Anger, Answer to Anger or something, which are all needed. And through that, though, I kind of begin to understand, you know, what got me so angry, why I'm still experiencing anger.
Right.
But it's not anything that I think I can really. I mean, you can't just turn it off like this. It was a programmed response. It was actually everything that I'm experiencing now is something they were happy to help me have.
They knew exactly what you were going to do when you went there.
Yeah,
they had your trigger.
Act like they were so manipulative that they could do it, and they had this plan for me maliciously to in years be broken in my brain. But no, they needed me broken in my brain then. And you get PTSD from that shit. And so now, like, when I go back on that set, and I've been back on it 3 or 4 times, every time you walk inside the doors, you're instant sweat. Or at least I am. I'm like, holy fuck, that just happened. The one time they had me back, they brought this Puerto Rican kid out that was a wrestler. And he went to a wrestling match and wrestled that weekend. I did the tattoo. And then he tried to run me down for it fading. And I'm like, well, you didn't heal it. You know how it made me so mad. And I'm already on edge. I couldn't deal with that in any kind of a normal Kyle fashion.
Yeah.
You know, the last time they actually called me back, they told me they wanted to change my image. I was like, well, that's interesting. What do you mean? He said, well, we don't want to show the Kyle that we've shown before. We want to show the real you, Kyle. We want to show the father, the nice guy, you know, the good side of you. And I said, what were you trying to show before? Mm-hmm. What was it you were trying to get before? Because that now that's, I guess, where my anger gets to be, because it's almost like you're just telling me, yeah, we planned on playing you. We played you. It worked really good for us.
Right.
Hopefully it works good for you, but
I could tell you, anybody going into this, man, I've known enough people that have gone through this to tell everybody that will potentially go on it. And it's mostly people that are talking shit about it right now until they get the call. You are going there because you're a character that they feel they can fit into a script, and they want you to play your role. And if you understand that role and you maximize on that role, act. It's a show. It is entertainment. If you want to be validated for your work, work on your customers and let your customers give you critique, and let your peers give you critique. Go to a fucking expo and enter if you need that. Like, there's tons of them. Go see how it stands on there, or don't. And just do it at home and take the validation from real people that really saved up money to really get work by you and collect your art, and let them do it. Not some knucklehead that they're like, hey, you're going to go into here and let somebody tattoo your face, whether or not you want what they're going to tattoo on your fucking face. Like, what the hell is that? Like, you know, looking for that validation in that forum. And how many people talk shit about the 3 judges and what the fuck did they blah, 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 and then subject themselves to being there. So if you're going to go, play the game, play them back, and own it and work it. What it comes down to a lot of times when you see the winners, I'll tell you the formula that makes it work. It is rigged to a degree. They know who they want, blah, 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 blah. There were certain episodes where if you watch the highlights leading up to the end, and if a certain artist makes a certain statement like, hey, it's about time there was an X as the winner, or there was a duh, and they play that, that's how you figure it out. They're going to give it to that person. Enough bad shit happens where a female should have won an episode, pretty much going to guarantee that the one coming up, they're going to make it happen because they got enough pushback on it. So that you can kind of pick a few of those out. But that's not a definite shoe-in. What I believe
that gets to be, you're still going hoping to win. You're hoping you're going to be.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about people from the outside. When you're in it, you're in the middle of the chaos. You don't see the edits. You don't see the commercials like we see it on the outside. So when we experience it for the first time, but I'll tell you what it comes down to, and I firmly believe this. A lot of the times, especially in the first seasons, they would have the potential winners on stage, and they've got to decide between A and B. We'll just say A and B. They're not just looking at that final tattoo. They're going to think about which one of those artists gave the producers shit, talked crap about everything, had a problem with everything, bitched about food, bitched about sleep, bitched about everything. Because you know what they got to do with them next? They got to send them to clubs and pay them money to go make appearances. And you give it to a certain artist who's been cool, who's been down, who's been like, I get it. I'm here to be seen. I'm here to say good things. I'm here to make the brand look good. And I'm here to go afterwards and talk about it. But you have openly talked shit about their camp, their house. You're a guest in their house. You don't have to be there.
Right.
You chose to be there. And they're like, okay, I'm going to give this person a bunch of money, and then I'm going to let them go out and represent me or represent us. And then I've got to take the safest bet on who that person's going to be. It's not a big surprise some of the winners look the way they look and act the way they act and have a presence the way they have a presence and dress the way they dress. It's not a big surprise. I know who I'm going to want in a club representing my brand, representing the name that's going to say the good things. But if that person just sat there talking shit for the entire time they were here and whined and bitched and complained about everything, they're going to be a poor representative of me out there. So why would I give it to them? And in that case, we have both seen lesser tattoos win without question. And it was their attitude. They sunk themselves. I was like, man, they talked to me the whole time about the way they were throughout the whole thing and every gripe they had. And I knew who they were competing against. And I was like, that person didn't say shit. That person was there with money on their mind and fame on their mind, and they're going to get it. And I believe that dictates it, because you're hiring an ambassador.
Right.
You
Yeah.
are.
It's probably an amount of mistake I made there because certainly the second time I came back, there was no small amount of bitching I did about both Oliver and Nunez. And at one point, actually, Oliver overheard it. I didn't know he was in the staircase. Not that it would have changed what I said,
Right.
but they asked me what was going to happen, and I said, well, there's a guy with a toothpick's going to come in. No, a guy with a lisp is going to come in here with a toothpick trying to cover it up. Then he's going to go ahead and stare at us intently for 5 minutes while they get camera angles.
I don't know you're talking
After that, he's going to come back in again, and then he's going to tell which one of us is going to go downstairs to face our fate. And so many times, well, he happened to be right outside the door. So seconds later, of course, he comes in, and this time he doesn't stare at everybody. He usually stares at everybody. He's just kind of staring at me.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
You know what? I think it's beyond them.
I got one of these tattoos.
Actually, I don't.
And they remarked about it. And I mean, that's exactly, you don't want to have me representing your brand. And I get that.
I think it's further than that. I don't think it's more about you. I think it's further than that. I think it's more about the people that go in there and conflict with production. Honestly, I don't think production gives a shit who fights with the judges. I think that makes for good television. And right. I think that those people are just as subject. They're just entertainers on it. They're just actors on a show as well. They're getting a paycheck. They're not writing them. They're not writing checks. They're getting checks, and they're playing their game as well. Yeah. And I really think it comes down to that final haul. And when production and money behind it is saying, I don't want that person here. I want this person here. Marketability is everything. We saw that more recently in one where
that's a hard one to walk there too, though. When you're told, and you are told by the producers, you have to speak your mind. Fight with these guys. Tell them what you think. Fight. They
want that. They want that.
That's what the producers want. But every time you see someone who does that and fights with the judges, then the judges treat them harshly for the remainder. And so it's like you can give the producers what they want and lose your foothold against the judges. But, you know what I mean? Because the judges still, they hold cards.
Of course.
And they're not above being biased and childish. And
of course,
they're not above making sure that their antiquated style of tattooing is still represented.
Don't hold back, buddy.
Well,
but you know what I also think they do is make sure that they go tell all of the final contestants, I really wish it had been you. And I've heard that repeatedly. Like, we gave it to this one, but we really wanted it to be you. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. If you don't get the game, that's here. You're getting me sucked into it too. It's a game.
Craig told me
I invite you into my house.
They had no choice.
If I'm inviting you into my house to play Clue.
Right.
You know the rules, you know the game, you know the moves.
You know, that's the same excuse, though, that they kept giving to me, too.
It's not an excuse.
You've already known it. Well, no, at the same time, here's what I'm going to say back to them, and I did. I said, you motherfuckers knew it, too.
Yeah.
So don't fucking play me out like I'm the only ignorant one here. We can all jump into this ignorant pool because you guys knew you were going to have tattoo artists like myself who are better than all of you, and that you were going to stand here and judge them harshly, and some days unfairly. And you're going to do that for the show.
Yeah, but that's like saying those who can't do.
I have to understand that. Well, you have to understand then that when I go through that, I'm going to fucking be pissed about it, and I might beat your goddamn ass.
But listen, saying that they can't do what you do, right? Those who can't do teach, et cetera, et cetera. And there is a thing where there is a thing where you go to a certain point where you're like, okay, it's time to progress to the next thing. I never did one thing saying, I'm going to do this thing till I die. I've changed my direction, my path, my energy, my careers repeatedly because I'm too scatterbrained not to. I couldn't imagine doing one thing for fucking ever. Like, it just would drive me insane.
Towards the tail end of tattooing myself.
Yeah, I never would do any of that. That's so weird to me. And I give mad respect to those who can, but that's just not my personality. Point is, you also don't have a show that you host successfully after all the other ones have gone away. You know what I mean? All the other ones are gone. And for whatever reason, that formula works. Just like when people are like, what the fuck is Dave Navarro doing up there? Making more money than you?
That's what he's doing up there. Too. I mean, one thing about Dave is the other guys can't do that job. You know, when they take the microphone on their live finales and stuff, and you see how frozen Nunez was this year when he tried. Mm-mm. And to me, I'm laughing my ass off because people I hope are finally able to see what I saw every day when people would be like, why the fuck is Dave there? And it's like, well, because those other guys can't.
Well, Dave's a pro. He's a professional entertainer.
He talks. He's eloquent.
Yeah.
You know what? The only time this is how I knew to call all three of them bitches, because of course I always look for that weakness, and bitch was their sore spot. And it took me a while to realize their sore spot, but every single time there would be a Taco Bell commercial, that was the only time I've ever seen him be unprofessional during the commercials, during the time that he should have shut up and dealt with it, because he knows the fucking game just like I do. He signed the fucking contract. He gets paid the big bucks. But despite knowing that he has to endorse a product he doesn't support, like Corona, because he's not an alcoholic anymore, and like Taco Bell, because he refuses to eat food that people touch. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, how do you do that?
But these are true.
You better have a big garden.
He's not a fan of Taco Bell at all. He's not a fan of alcohol. So on these days when he would have to do the Find Your Own Beach or the Yokira Taco Bell, whatever he's doing, Run for the Border, I don't know what it was. He would go over there, he'd do his aside, and I'm scratching my head because it took the longest. He wouldn't mess up a single time off the cue cards or just off the top of his head, reading in front of the camera. He would do other angles. He would be like, would you like to hear it like this? That's how he'd do it. He wouldn't mess up and then do another one. But on the day that he does the Taco Bell, I was like, that's it. You guys, you're bitches. Every fucking one of you. You're a bitch, and you realize you are a bitch to Original Media, the production company. You're a bitch to Viacom, your head company. You're a bitch to Spike TV. You're a bitch to now Paramount. And that makes sense. Everybody's somebody else's bitch. You know what I mean? I'm somebody's bitch. Someone comes in and pays me $1,250 for a day. I'm your bitch all day. That's the way it works. You know, I'm going to do your tattoo. It probably won't look as cool as if I did my tattoo, but we'll do your tattoo. I'm your bitch. In that case, though, that's why I wanted to call him a bitch, because he didn't have his words in his mouth. You know, he said, I said, you're going to call me out? And he says, what? He couldn't remember. It was the earpiece he had in. He was at the time, he was Andrea's bitch. She probably told him, or else Paul Starkman told him, hey, tell what's his name to go up there and, you know, tell Kyle he could have justifiably gone home. You could have justifiably pulled your balls out of Scott's mouth, strapped him back to your vagina where they fucking belong, and then called me down there and sent me fucking home. I ain't trying to be here. Out of all the people here, I was the one trying to be here the least. Yeah. You know, my brain's going crazy. I'm not asking you to stay right up until I lost my house, I guess. But you know, I was ready to go home every single day. And then for him to imagine that I'm trying to be there when he could have controlled it, tell Kyle he could have justifiably gone home, well, then be a man. I got it at that point, though. He was a bitch. And so that's when I call him a bitch. Man, they went crazy. They didn't like it. But that's because they knew they were. You get paid $5,000 for an episode, $10,000 a week. And now I hear it's up to $10,000 an episode, $20,000 a week. I'm your bitch. Good Lord, I'm your bitch all day long. It just sucks when somebody tells me, points it out to me.
You weren't at the bitch threshold.
Yeah.
Before that.
I love nothing more, though, than to make people smell their own shit. Like, you know, if you lean a little bit closer and see them roses really smell like poo, poo, poo.
I guess with me, it would just be like the biggest thing with it, once again, is how much space it can rent. And like, yeah, for anybody, because some of the, you know, you're not the only person that struggles with that event. And it's challenging to me because you knew you didn't have to go. Right. You did not have to sign up for this.
I did have to go the second time.
You could not have been told it was great. You could not have been told by anybody that this is the best thing, because everybody that leaves that show bitches about it. FYI, production company, everybody bitches about that show. The one person I knew there's one or two that don't bitch.
The person I knew the most from season 2 was Steve Tech. So he came out not bitching at all because the fucker won.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said, though. I said the ones that walk away with the money, you get a little from. Your two biggest, I say your biggest fans are anybody that leaves in the first 4 episodes. Those are the ones that like wear that shit forever. And then the middle ground, they'll play into it as long as it keeps getting them booths and it keeps getting them the potential to come back.
As much as the winners are like, man, you won't hear me bitch about the popularity of the show. you might hear me bitch about just reality show popularity overall more than you'd hear me bitch about the popularity of that show, because I'm tied up with it. And I do try to keep pretty objective on it. In cases like this, and in every fucking weekend, as you know, when I'm at a tattoo convention, it becomes such a part of my life because every day I'm reliving it with people who want to know. And at one point I've had to be introspective with it. And then eventually I end up rehearsing almost. I mean, many of these things I told you about, the monkey and the cucumber, monkey and the grape, all that shit that I've told a million times over, you know, and I think I end up reliving a little bit, but sometimes too, it doesn't occupy as much as my mind at all until it gets scraped and somebody wants to know.
Being brought up, right?
Yeah, and then at that point, I feel like the necessity, or if anybody, like I'll meet people all day long, nobody has an idea I was on the show. As soon as somebody comes in the shop and like, dude, you're on that show, I'm like, okay, I gotta almost like an apology or a redressing.
Don't judge me.
Yeah. It's like, damn it. Now, okay, you know. Okay, well, here's the thing. I didn't hit him. I'm sorry I didn't, but I'm also kind of glad I did. And also, look at this and this and this, and you'll know why I was so crazy, you know. Yeah. The show, God bless it, shows themselves, I think, are good for the industry overall.
They are. There's no question. The amount of tattooing being done today is largely in part to the shows. And if you don't understand that and you don't want to believe that, that's your choice. But the amount of publicity it's given and the amount of exposure that good tattooing has been given, despite what anybody says, there's been some phenomenal artists on the shows and more are coming. I mean, we just talked about Josh Payne. Josh Payne is incredible. You know, Ryan Ashley is incredible. Kelly Dottie's incredible. What's that?
Just ask him. He'll tell you.
You don't have to. He's a good artist. You know what I mean?
I love the guy. I told him many times over, I'm like, so glad that I met you after I was on the show and before you were. Yeah. Because I couldn't have, maybe I could have handled him on the show. One thing is, maybe I could have, because he's right. In every case where he's like, y'all just pissed because I'm doing a good job and I handle this really well. And that's the truth. You know, and he's not getting, but overall, if you watch season 4, I swear to God, there was the push to make people have alliances, and there was a push to make people fight in a fashion that was based off of one person getting accolade and appreciation and everybody else being starved for.
They're going to fuck with you, man. They're going to play on you. Josh,
but what do you do?
Josh is a head case for them there.
Here's the thing. Listen, if anybody tells you, hey, we're going to fuck with you, so get used. No, that ain't the way. I don't get used to it just because you're going to fuck with me. No, you're going to fuck with me. Guess what? I'm going to fuck back. Like, we'll be both playing this game. You can fuck with me. Cool. And maybe I should be like, oh, well, they're going to fuck with me and just deal with that. But I won't. I'll tell you what I'm doing.
I'm interested to see Josh's dynamic in it. I'm interested to see if they actually get under his skin or if he just like rides that shit.
No, he's going to ride it.
Like, he's just going to ride it, dude. Like, he's there to win it, man. Like,
he's going to that. The only thing that's going to keep Josh from winning is going to be Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Right.
It depends on how much that pulls on their heartstrings and how much. I told Josh to go ahead and.
That's a good artist too, though. Don't.
Oh yeah, he is. He's amazing.
He's a great
Josh
artist.
is more he fits.
Josh is what an ink master. If you're actually talking about being able to do styles, and be entertaining, and be loud, and be a character, and be all of the things that are wrapped up in there. To me, he's born for that role. To also be public, to go speak for it, blah, blah, blah. I got friends that I feel are even more diverse technically, that are some of the best one of the best artists I've ever met. He's from Costa Rica. And I think if it was truly a show about caliber of work and diversity, he would go in and win, and he wouldn't even have any competition.
Would it be Stefano or?
No. Unknown kid from Costa Rica. Not unknown, but very much tight in the Alex Nunez. He's very much known in the circle of art, but not as some sort of outlandish character. He's funny as shit. He's one of my favorite people on the planet and one of the most technically diverse tattoo artists I've ever seen. But he would technically be that, somebody that could be there and do whatever came through the door. If you want lettering, if you want a black and gray portrait that's devastating, if you want realism that's photo quality, if you want caricature, Anything the guy can do, it's disgusting. I showed his portfolio to Timmy B one time when he was tattooing me, and I showed him, I was just flipping through his work, and Timmy kept having to stop and look at the next piece and be like, that's not the same artist. I'm like, yeah, it's the same fucking dude. Like he's incredible, but he's not, he's so about the art itself. He would never go do the show. He'd be terrible. You know what I mean? He would leave. He sleeps. He still lives at his parents' house. He takes care of the finances of everything. You know what I mean? His parents work too, but he's just like, he's bred different. So for me to wrap that part of it all up, because I do want to have other, I do want to get into other subjects with you, but I think we need to do that another time. This one's pretty much just the venting of this show. And that's okay. It's good for this.
Let me ask this one question then, if I could, about the...
yeah, do it.
One thing I meant to say for a minute is when we were talking about colleges and being self-taught.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about schools.
Well, there was we did other things. There was a thought that occurred to me for some minutes. I don't believe that if all tattoos started from apprenticeships, I'd be curious if we'd even be doing tattoos as portraits today. Because the general theory between every apprentice that was coming along the line until somebody came out of prison doing portraits was that you do a heavy outline, use a thick liner, then use black, and that's pretty much it. And it wasn't until people started trying to figure it out for themselves in prison using, watered down blacks and things like that to create gray shades and actually doing portraits. It wasn't until self-taught artists started doing it until we got those. So I mean to say, sometimes as much as we malign scratchers and house kitchen magicians and all, and probably rightfully so, I think there's an amount too that they've aided in the industry that we have to be thankful that they've given us that, because portraits.
There's a difference, though. There's a difference between a new artist and a scratcher. My definition of a scratcher is not necessarily the caliber of their art at that particular moment. It's, are they trying to just collect off of what they're barely getting by doing, and they're looking at the money. And they're like, this is it, man. I'm making my fucking ducats. I'm going to go get me a blunt and I'm going to fucking do this shit. And like, I'm going to keep doing it in kitchens and like, I'm golden. And I'm only going to work in environments where I can make my money, get the fuck out of there. That can be in a shop. I know a lot of scratchers that work in shops, and that can be in somebody's kitchen. But you got guys going to celebrities' houses every day and tattooing on the porch. You got Rick Ross getting tattoos, you know what I mean, on the porch. He did it. Everybody else. Yeah, that has nothing to do with it.
Tattooed out of his house.
Right. That has nothing to do with it. The location and the quality of the work has nothing to do with it. I've been in third world countries and got tattooed in, a parking garage. They were tattooing in a parking garage. It's where they threw the convention. It was in a fucking parking garage. So that doesn't make it a scratcher. To me, it's a person who is intentionally doing shit work and is comfortable with that level of where they're at. If an artist is young or younger in the trade and is hungry and is humble and understands that they are not good enough yet and they have much to learn, then that's where that hand needs to be extended out.
That's a great definition. It needs to, I don't know that it has as much clarification inside it, because oftentimes it's just spoken obliquely. So like, my son has done a couple of tattoos out of the house now, not with my support, but he has nowhere else to do them. He's tattooing his girlfriend. That's not I'm not telling him he should either. But then again, I'm left with, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't have a place for you to go. You can't make it out here. You want to get better at this and you want to do it. So how do I, as somebody who learned out of the house, say not to do it? Moreover, I do tell him, don't post it online. Because then you become the scratcher. If you're working on your house with the idea of becoming better, so that you work in a shop, not a scratcher, but easily maligned as one. It only takes one or two Facebook posts, or and then everybody's calling.
Yeah, but I mean, even guys like Timmy B were told at one time, and I hope I'm not mistaking that this was Timmy B's story, but that he was told at one time by an artist in the industry, "Oh, you should just never do this. You should just throw your machines away because you're terrible." You know what I mean? So that's the thing. And that can be actually a powerful motivator. Like being told that you're shit when you're driven and you're naturally talented. You know, Timmy gets enough fucking blowjobs. He doesn't need us doing it, but he's a phenomenal artist. He's an amazing character. He's an interesting character. I love characters in the business. I miss them. I don't like when everybody looks like the same.
Right.
Cliche, wearing a uniform, got a certain look, carry a certain attitude. Whatever it is, the personality type, not even under a brand, just literally just like the whole, like, okay, I've reached the acceptable level of self-modification. And
there was a time when we would take pictures at conventions and when we were going back and look at them, there's been more than one that we're just like, oh my God, let's just sit and count the Sullen shirts inside of this image. And eventually I haven't owned a Sullen shirt probably ever in my life after that realization. Someone might have bought me one before, but I'm like, holy fuck, there's like 18 bearded guys all wearing black Sullen shirts of some kind. None of them were the same, but the irony to me.
Well, obviously with me or the brand, like, and what I experienced in my time with brands.
You're happy to see it.
No, I ran my course with it, man. I changed direction intentionally because once it stopped being, like I told you, I believe in changing directions. Once it stopped being something I was doing and that we were doing and creating and trying to like bring something new to an environment and try and just be innovative and stuff like that. And once there was enough people doing it, and at one time everybody was friends and they were supportive and it's like, hey, this is a brand new market that we're creating all at once. And then once it got into like the little siding out and getting people to like swear allegiances and put little fucking tags on each other and like branding each other, I was like, no, man, this ain't my shit. I was never cool enough for clubs or cliques or fucking gangs or anything, and I'm never gonna fucking be. And I was like, dude, this feels like something different. Like people started approaching me, offering alliance and offering like association and offering support and loyalty.
Like somebody would approach me like, hey man, give me a free tattoo and everybody's going to see it. And then
right. And I was just like, but not even that, not even just those happened at the very beginning. But I mean, like known people started being like, hey man, you know, I don't really fucking like those guys, man. I like what you're about and da-da-da. And at first I was like, that's great. Thank you very much. I appreciate the compliment. And then I started realizing, I was like, nah, man, this is a move.
Mark you out.
This is a shift. This is let's be us against them. Let's make it this versus that. And it started getting that way. And I started feeling that. And I started feeling poisoned. I literally started feeling poisoned, man. I started feeling like, fuck, I'm now a part of these stupid fucking battles. I see energy drink fights. I just watched this video where, you know, one famous dude who used to rock a brand of energy drink did this video where he basically disses other energy drinks and is like, this is my energy drink now. And I'm like, you're supporting fucking poison. Like who the fuck cares what energy drink you like? Like, oh, your sugar water alliance is now stronger than your old sugar alliance water. I was like, you look fucking stupid. And he's super fucking famous and it matters to a shitload of people. And I think it's fucking dumb. Right. I think that this was supposed to be when I got in it and like, oh, I'm going to play the old guy card now. But when I was a kid in the fucking early 90s, me and my buddies took earrings and pushed them through our tongues. Earrings, the type with backs, because we saw on TV, there was this video, I think it was an Offspring video, and these kids had all these fucking piercings. And I was like, that's fucking cool. So I took this earring, I'm in high school, I'm like, tuk, 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 and I push it through my thing and I put it back on it. So this thing that was supposed to be a bar this long was this fucking thing. And I'm like, oh, cool. And it was all swollen and fucking red. And I go to school and I'm like, eh. And people are like I'm frothing. I'm so excited.
What's the moral of this? This is good.
Yeah, you like this? I'm getting on a tangent.
I pierced my eyebrow in class the same way.
Well, the point of it back then was it separated. We were weird fucking kids. We were outcasts. We were fucking strange. We were not liked. So we did this shit, and then we all just became enough not liked kids that we became our own thing, and we didn't fucking need the rest of them. And that was the point. And now, just like with a lot of things, and even me, I'm not saying, oh, the industry's ruined, because the industry evolves. It's not some there's no Bible. There's no like high order of how we're supposed to be and who we're supposed to be and what validates us and what are our 10 commandments. You just do whatever the fuck you want to do. And as soon as doing whatever the fuck you want to do isn't good enough, you can suck my dick. because I don't care. And I didn't want to care ever. I just wanted to be a good person and meet people. And if the things that I did could motivate other people, or if I thought that it could benefit them, or we could make money together, or we could go on an adventure together and travel to some place in another part of the world, that's all I ever wanted to do. And as soon as people like one tried to like align with me versus other, or when they started fucking turning on me because I didn't do enough for them, I didn't meet their fucking expectations, or knowing me didn't benefit you enough, which is really the most common way I felt, that like I started making promises and I had goals and I achieved a lot of them, but then more and more and more people kept coming to me with that same kind of like whistling by me, like, hey, I'm right here. Oh, you want to do something with me too? Cool. You know what I mean? And it just started becoming this like expectation thing. And if I didn't hit a mark for you that you wanted, then it was like, well, now I'm going to side over with this one. And then we're going to talk shit about this. Yeah. And I'm just like,
yeah. It's same thing in tattooing.
It is. It's all the same thing.
Because in the smaller microcosm, but when someone comes in the shop and they say, well, you know, I got a couple of tattoos from them down there.
Oh yeah,
man,
dude, really, I owned a shop for 10 years.
Yeah, so I know the game. Then they say they're really just trying to play you against them.
Yes,
it's also similar to a stepchild,
and they'll come tell you if any of them talked any shit.
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
And you know what I told all my crew?
Lower the price.
For 10 years that I owned my shop until I sold it to my manager. Every time anybody came in with that fuck shit, I told the crew, I said, I don't care what they said down the road. You don't say anything back and watch what happens. That negativity and that poison will burn itself out. It will ruin them. And every time, guaranteed, you would just watch those other shops crash. And if they were the ones that were doing the price warring and all of that bullshit, Josh Ford told me, he told me way back when, man, he said, if a competitor shop opens up on you and tries to do that undercutting bullshit and tries to have that negative attitude and tries to do all of that stuff, and they're going to take part of your clients, they're only taking the clients you never wanted.
Right.
They're only taking the people away from you that are poison, that were beneath what you were trying to achieve, and let them have them.
Well, in most of those cases, we eventually learned also, similarly, our approach was to say, he gave you this really good deal. Wow, that's great. You know, because they would usually come in and be like, he did this for this price. That kind of, they hope, sets how you're going to treat them too.
Absolutely.
You have to do a better job than he did at an even cheaper price.
Right.
And at that point, then we would just point out to him, wow, and it didn't buy him any loyalty from you.
Right.
Like here you got this great tattoo that you're happy to show off, yeah. And you say that my tattoo is too expensive. You use this as the determining factor, but yet it didn't buy you, even though you love that tattoo, and you think it's better than what I could do for you at the price I'm saying. You don't like the guy enough to go back to him.
No, you're still shopping it out.
Yeah, you're still here.
My favorite line in the shop, when anybody would say, I could get it X for less. I could get it at X for X.
Yeah.
And just try and play that game if I could get it somewhere else for less. I would always say, in life, you can always find something cheaper.
Yeah.
And I'd keep just a straight face. And 9 times out of 10, they would go, that's good. And they would come in and get the work done.
Right on.
But I would let them know, you are free at any time to go to somewhere cheaper. And I didn't say, you could shop at Macy's or you could shop at the flea market, because that's some punk shit. You can say that without saying that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's all in your delivery. So you just keep a dead eye, straight stare, no smirk, no nothing. You can always find something cheaper in life. And that's it, man. And you just let it sink in. You know what I mean? But as soon as you start playing with that tit for tat shit, yeah, but I heard they did this, or the quality ain't going to be that, or blah, blah, blah. As soon as you do that, you're right there with them, man. You're right there with them.
It's probably a good way to tie up this interview too.
It is.
Hey, Kyle Dunbar, you can always find something cheaper.
You can always find something cheaper.
Man, well, actually, that makes me sound too high. Maybe I'm the cheapest. Yeah,
I really appreciate it, man.
The proof that you can always find something cheaper. Kyle Dunbar exists.
Well, give a shout out real quick to where they can find you, because I will see you.
Kyle Dunbar.
Go ahead. Say it again.
Ink by Kyle Dunbar @.com.